Welcome to Bamfordrose and another question of the week. This week it's about buying a Category D car. And before we get onto that, I'd just like to say, as always, it really helps us if you can like, subscribe, comment and hit the bell notifications so you always get latest up-to-date videos from Bamfordrose. Okay, so as you're probably aware, a car will be given a category from insurance if it's had some sort of hiccup in its life. It could be a flood, it's been flood damaged. It could be in a serious accident and it needs some form of repair. Now, depending on how serious the repair work is needed, you know, whether it's real fundamental structure, safety critical suspension components, something to do with the chassis, that could even get classification A, where it just must never ever see the road again and will be sold for salvage from the insurer, and only someone in salvage can buy it for recycling purposes. But more often, seriously damaged cars, and even cars that, because they need maybe a lot of carbon, a lot of bodywork, and the parts price is high, whenever the cost to repair, so if it was flood, if it's a lot of parts and labour, whenever the repair quote reaches a threshold of about 60% of the market value of the car, then the insurer will look towards writing the car off instead of paying out that hefty repair bill to a garage to repair it. So when the car is uneconomic to repair because the repair bill was either exceeding or encroaching that 60% threshold, then it will be given the classification D, Cat D. So the most common one, when the car from the outside, if you were buying it immediately after it's had the hiccup, whatever it was, the most common is that there's been some sort of wheel-to-wheel contact, or the wheel of the Aston has hit another object and it's ripped the wishbone arm out of the front subframe. I've got a few pictures of that, so now I just flash up the picture of a subframe from afar. You can see a crash can here, and you can see the lower wishbone arm going into the lower subframe bracket. So when there's a collision on that wheel, it rips that lower wishbone out of the lower subframe brackets and leaves it unable for the wishbone arm to bolt to anything. So the fix for this is a new front subframe, which can only be bought by an approved repairer. So even us, you know, there's 6 bolts holding the subframe on. It's very, very easy to take one in, take one out and put one back in again. But unless you're a Category A repairer, you cannot actually buy the front subframe. Front subframes from the Category A repairer, you couldn't just walk into the shop and say, hey, I want to buy a front subframe. Oh no, they must fit it. So supply and fit of a front subframe is going to be super expensive. Probably subframe, you know, with that, around about £5 grand. Probably the labour, it's going to need suspension arms, a bit of paint, bodywork, some panels, maybe a bonnet, headlamp. All of a sudden, you've easily got a 20 grand parts bill, with a 10-15 grand labour bill. If it was an 06 V8, well, you're getting up to 80-90% of the car's value. So that car will be given a classification D just because it's ripped the lower wishbone out of the front subframe. So if you were to buy a second-hand lower front subframe, entire subframe, if someone didn't want to split it off eBay, you know, I've seen them for sale for, you know, 3, 4, 5 grand. This is a good fix, and even though the car was given a classification D, it's just had a new front subframe, and really there's no legacy that the car is carrying with it because of that repair. You know, it's been a perfectly decent repair. We can then flash up some pictures now of some repairs that have been welded. So someone has welded a bracket, an extension onto the lower front subframe to be able to mount that wishbone. Now, in this particular example, I mean, the wishbone arm is mounted. It's safe, it's secure. I'm sure if you took it up to 100 mile an hour, stamped on the brakes and did an ABS stop, there's going to be no consequence, you know. It just looks a little bit, not bodge repair, but you know, it's a quick and dirty repair. It wouldn't be one that we would undertake, but I've seen quite a few of these examples done correctly, and all I could say, if it was my car, I would have no problem owning it at all. It's just probably not a trade fix that we would offer, but the fix is good enough nonetheless. I hope that differentiates the two. Obviously, the trade fix that we would offer would be a new front subframe. So that's a common one. I've seen a car be written off because it needed a new rear subframe. Not because the front subframe rips and cracks the mounts off, it's aluminium. Rear subframe is tubular steel, and I see those bend. And again, the frame is a category A part, and it's very expensive to buy. You're going to need a few suspension components if it's had a wheel-to-wheel impact, and add all that parts and labour bill up, and it will cross that threshold of being economic to repair the car. So at some point in time, if a car had a hiccup, and doing a technically correct repair with all the factory parts totted up a sum of money that meant it was uneconomic to repair, well, the car would then get purchased by insurance because someone would get paid out. Then someone would buy that car from insurance. And you know, if someone has gone on the second-hand market, bought perfectly okay parts, built that car back up, now they're selling that car on, you know, it's not a lemon, it's not labelled, in my opinion, bad, but what you must do really when buying a Cat D car is fully research the reason why it was classified Category D, then try and piece together the fix that it's had. I mean, really you want to be finding a car that had a replacement front subframe rather than one that's had brackets and stuff welded on, and you know, you can just crawl underneath the car and have a quick peer around with a torch. Quite easy to do that. So, you know, in this sort of guide to buying a Cat D car, I just wanted to cover some of the aspects that classify the car as Cat D and some things you can check. And I wanted to put out there that just because the car is classified a Cat D, it's not a lemon, not by a long shot. Flood damage. If it was classified as a Cat D as a flood damage, you really need to be careful of this car. The sorts of damage that the flood could cause is untold. Water in gearbox, water in the inside of the car, and if it's not been cared for quickly after the flood, then everything could corrode. Heated seat elements, wiring, everything could turn really bad. And these cars just end up chasing your tail trying to put correct. So I'd be really, really wary about a Category D car because of flood damage. Accident bodywork, well, you know, front bumper, £700 or £800, each headlamp £1,200, bonnet, wings, you know, they're about £12–13 each, £1,200 or £1,300 each. If then it pushed those wings past the doors, you need doors, you know, they're about £1,200 each. So all of these panels that come off really, really easy, get sprayed up adequately, bolt back on really, really easy. Well, if it was just superficial bodywork that classified the car as Category D, again, I wouldn't be concerned about this at all. So, you know, there's just a few examples of Category D cars. Message is research the reason if you're buying one, because they are attractive price, because the market categorises them as, you know, worth less money. Just do the research as to why it was Cat D. Avoid flood, check out all structural stuff, and yeah, you could potentially buy a bargain. If you were buying the car and it was running because somebody has already repaired it, then you can get a bargain. The real ones to watch out for is where you're buying them from the salvage yards. Buying it from the insurer or one of their salvage companies that's selling it, that's the real point to really take care. Because I see so often someone that has been attracted to what appears like, you know, dream purchase, get your Aston, it's a bit damaged at 15 grand, but when you come to add up the repair bill, always it's cheaper just to go out and buy a straight car than the purchase price of the car from salvage, plus all the parts, plus all the labour, and a lot less headache just to go out and buy the straight car. Anyway, I hope that helps in a bit of an insight into category D cars, and see you in the next video.